we don't have men or fathers or father figures or men who stand in the gap for other men to teach them, hey, how to be a man, how to be a father. And so, my whole journey, this whole 10 years or so being a father, it's been learning as you go.
Hello, guys. Welcome to this ongoing series, Parenting in America as an African. In today's video, I have the absolute pleasure of hosting the Kenyan American home. He is a well-known Kenyan content creator with 84,000 subscribers on YouTube, and recently his TikTok account hit over 400,000 followers. He's also a parent and he's married. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the Kenyan American home to the show. Karibu sana.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Congratulations, Maze, on all the progress on your content.
Yeah. Now, I still think of myself as an ordinary guy, Maze. Me, I'm just here trying to help people come to the US and Canada. Yeah. But nice. Otherwise, for my people, the Kenyan American home up AV Mazena, welcome to this live. Welcome. I'm excited to be hosted by you, Lucy.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I know we are busy. I know there's so much going on in life, and for you to accept my invitation to come to my show, I appreciate that. So you get here, you go to school, and I know this video is specifically for parenting. So how do you end up being married and having children? How many children do you have, and how is that for you here in the US?
So I actually met my wife in Kenya on a mission trip. So, sometimes when you go to serve the Lord, it's always good to open your eyes and see when the Holy Spirit moves.
That's it.
Yeah, see when the Holy Spirit moves. So I had met my wife in Kenya.
Okay.
And she lived very close to where I was going for school.
Okay.
And so we kind of had started dating.
Mm-hmm.
We had started dating, and so we were exclusive and all that stuff. And so when I moved here, she was still working she was in a different state actually.
Okay.
So she continued working in that state. She came, visited me, and it's different doing long distance. We did like long distance, like 1 year. And so, yeah, that was crazy. I have no idea how we did 1 year long distance.
With you being here and having in Kenya, or the other way around?
Long distance, me in Kenya and her in the US.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I have no idea how we did it. But so when I came here we were exclusive. So we continued dating here. Long distance has a way of giving you a different impression of how the relationship is actually going.
Until you get together.
Yeah, you do long distance, but then what is it? What is it? Distance make the way.
That grow fonder.
Yeah. And so there's like all this romanticizing that you have with long distance. And then you meet in person, and then it's like all the crazies hit each other. And I'm like, oh my goodness, is this going to work?
Yeah.
But yeah. And especially, so it was intercultural. So my wife is American and I'm Kenyan. Man, we had to work on the differences.
What are some of those differences? Because I know there are a lot of people here who are afraid of engaging in interracial relationships because of the problems that they might face. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them? Or are you still overcoming them?
I don't know. I think we've kind of stabilized right now. We know our space, but initially, like Kenyan culture and American culture are so totally different. The way people here are, the way they do life is so different than the way we do life. Like back home, it's a more it's a man's world in in Kenya, but
Right.
and then you come over here and here people help each other. Like you find, men do dishes, men do cook, and all that. It's normal. It's normal to help out your partner and all those things. But back home, it's mostly women do this, and it's So you come in here with that, especially that male. There's just a way in Africa your male ego is stroked just by the way the society is, because
Mhm.
you expect to come home and your woman to be meeting you at the door, take your coat, and wash your hands,
Touch your hand.
get your bath water, and it's the only thing they don't do is feed you, and there's that. And
Mhm.
pretty much the men doesn't do. I don't even think, and maybe these days they do. Men change, men helping out with kids or bedtime or all those things. Men just sit, they watch TV, or if they're not, they go out, hang out with other men. And then you come here, and then it's the dynamics are different. People here mostly work together, and there's a lot of independent women and all that stuff here, and so totally different cultures.
Yeah.
And so so I'm coming here with my African male African culture
Mhm.
and all my ego,
Mm.
and so those first couple of years
Mm.
we clashed to get to a point where, hey, we're in this thing together. We need to find a solution, and slowly but surely we did. So there's so many different things, man. Uh, it just sometimes it takes what I've seen. I've seen a lot of interracial marriages not work
Mhm.
because people are not willing to kind of come together. Because if you're so stuck in your culture, and it's different. You see people, they bring in the African culture and they want to force it on
People.
the American people, and they have their own different cultures. And what ends up happening is you will clash and clash and clash until that thing doesn't work.
Mm.
So you have to be open. You have to be open. You have to give grace, and learn. There's so many things I had to unlearn. Like growing up as we go into parenthood and stuff. Uh, it's the way we were brought up. It's spare the rod, spoil the child.
That part. Yeah.
Yeah, like beat the kid until they're almost dead, and then they'll get the discipline.
They will
That's
get the
how we were brought. And it's unfortunately a lot of us have a lot of traumas from our parents,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes, hey, sometimes I would watch the way some kids were beaten in Africa, and I'm like, where is that
That
kid
was not
adopted?
legal, by the way. That was not okay.
Is that kid adopted, or is that their kid? Because it's like they're beating, and
Like you're
and so
beating a donkey like this.
yeah, no, and you can tell there's something that is not right with the parent, because the parent also has trauma from
From before.
from their parents, and so and frustrations, and they're taking frustrations out of their boys, and these little kids. So, oh man, there was so many things. And also I think I came to learn that, man, I need to, when you talk about marriage, I think people say if you do 50-50 in a marriage, it's not going to work. It's,
Mm.
if you're only bringing half of yourself to the table, and then the other person is bringing the other half, then the other half will someday, sooner than later, it's going to bring you down the table. And
Mm.
we just realized, hey, I got to give 100, and then you give 100, and then we come together and see, make this thing work. But also, I think sitting down and making an intentional choice. Hey, we're stuck in this thing. We're doing this thing,
Mhm.
and I'm committed. I'm not gonna. There's some options I think you remove from the table, and
Mm.
it's that's different in so many, depending on how your dynamics are. I think for me, that's what we did, and it helps that, like, me and my wife, we have the kind of the same foundation in, like, we're both Christians, so that really, I think that really helps, because when everything else fails, at least we can come back to the Bible. We
Right.
can come back to God, and that has been good for us. Been good for us.
Yes.
So yeah, kids.
How the
So
children came. When
yeah,
did that
so married for 13 years now
happen?
to one wife, and yeah, and 4 kids.
One
Crazy.
wife and 4 kids. 4 kids.
4 kids, and yeah,
4 kids.
it's crazy because, like, an American wife with 4 kids is not very hard off. It's like, maybe people in the farms, they have many kids, but people these days don't have 4 kids, and yeah, it's crazy. We always talked about having 3 or 4 kids, and
Okay.
yeah, so we had 3 boys, and we were like, oh man, we need to try. We need to try one more time
Not the
and
one
see.
more to look for a
Yeah,
girl.
to look for. I know. It's like, we gotta do this thing, and then we try this, and the fourth, we get we get blessed with the fourth one. She's a preemie. Oh
Oh,
man, that was
that's-
crazy. Yeah, she came in
uh-huh.
at 35. Man, it's crazy. Preemie with all the, we had to stay in the hospital for, for a little bit. It's crazy when you see your child with, like, tubes, and
Tubes. Yeah. Yeah.
oh my goodness. And then she was like so tiny. But yeah, so 4 kids, I have been in that room for all those 4 times.
All time.
When all my kids were born, I was there. I was the first person to, after the doctor took the baby, the first person to hand the baby was to me.
You
So
didn't pass out.
yeah,
You
no,
didn't pass out. Some
no,
people
man.
pass
I was the one holding her hand. Oh my
out. Oh,
gosh.
good.
And
Good.
the strength that is there, she almost broke my hand. Like, oh, I think when you're in the room and you see what women go through to, kind of like birth and
Mm-hmm.
bring life, man,
Mm-hmm.
you have so much respect. So much
True.
respect for, because it's not easy.
It's not.
It's not easy. It's not pretty. Yeah.
What?
But it's been good, yeah. And actually, it's crazy because it's been so different. Like, we've had 2 normal deliveries and then 2 C-sections,
Okay.
which is crazy. Yeah, it's my wife. Like, our first kid was a C-section, and
Mm-hmm.
it was because we did. And this is for, if you're a parent in America, or if you're, if you're thinking about having a kid, you've never had a kid in America, you need to know your rights. We did not know our rights for our first. We should probably have had pushed to not having a C-section, but we didn't,
Mm-hmm.
and they forced the C-section on us. But we
Mm-hmm.
could have waited if we knew what we did by our second child.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the first one wouldn't have been a C-section. I think people also need to realize that there's a profit element to C-section versus normal delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so first kid was a C-section. The second one, we stood our ground and we said, no, we're gonna do this thing normal. And we had
Mm-hmm.
a really good doctor who made sure that happened. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so the second and the third was normal delivery, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously our daughter was a preemie, so they had to do the C-section. Yeah, because they took her. Man, I would encourage men, if you've never done it, just go in there and see what happens. It's gonna make you respect your woman so much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I've been through both normal delivery and also the C-section, and the way they cut the woman. Oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
man, it's so crazy. Like, what women go through and you're like, because yeah, I'm there holding her hand, and oh my gosh, and they're cutting her open.
Mm-hmm. Wide open.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, my daughter was born. Actually, they tried to get her to breathe. She couldn't breathe for like I don't know how long. So I'm like, oh God, yeah,
Mm.
breathe, breathe,
Breathe,
girl. And
breathe,
then
breathe.
I know now she's 2 years old, and
She's so pretty.
yeah, and it's like night and day. The
Yeah.
little baby that had tubes coming, going through her noses and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a journey, man. Especially like I, I grew up with my mom. Nobody really modeled for me how to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of the things that you talk about. One of the big issues or one of the big problems that we have back home, uh, dads being absent.
Mm-hmm.
And they say this thing is a cycle, just the same way poverty is a cycle passed on from one generation to the next. It's like all just running away from your responsibility as a father
Mm-hmm.
is 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 been passed on from generations to generations. Because like we don't have men or fathers or father figures or men who stand in the gap for other men to teach them, hey, how to be a man, how to be a father. And so my whole journey, this whole 10 years or so being a father,
Mm-hmm.
it's been learning as you go.
Yeah.
Learning as you go, and man, and I think motivated by all the things that I wanted to get as a kid that I never did. And
Mm.
I also like to encourage men, especially because a lot of people are hard on men, are hard on fathers. Is don't beat yourself, because people will beat you. We're very hard on ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but I think people need to, as a man, you're doing good. As long as you do your best, it might not, it might not work. You might not be successful, but as long as hey, I did my best, just pat yourself in the back.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have platforms that appreciate fathers who are consistent. They may consistently fail, but we don't have platforms or area that appreciate fathers that tell them, hey, you know what, the world might be thinking you're terrible at this, but you're doing your best, and
Mm.
that's all that matters. Is hey, put your best foot forward, do your best. And so I've learned along the way to be kind to myself, but also as a father, you start to realize, you become a father, and then you start to understand your father and why they may have acted the way they did, why they decided to not be in your life, because it's not easy to be a father. It's not
Mm-mm.
easy to stay. It's not easy to, man, because sometimes you're like carrying, you carry the burdens of the whole family. And man, especially if you don't have a very supportive partner, that can be difficult.
Do you include the Kenyan culture in your teachings? Do you teach them your language, the food, the Kenyan culture, or do you incorporate both American and Kenyan?
Yeah, you try.
Okay.
It it's hard, especially when you're Kenyan and living in America. You just know that there's gonna be a lot of influences from the American culture because this is where you live.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do the music. Man, it's always the music, whether it's the YouTube or Spotify.
Yeah.
Teaching them here and there. But I've also come to learn it's important to, hey, take trips back home,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that kind of, it's good for them to see where you're coming from. It's good to see for them, yeah, where you're coming from. But yeah, I do cooking, and my mom taught me how to cook, and so I try to make sure that, hey, I teach my boys how to cook, because that's, sometimes there's some things that, oh, men don't do this, men, and I think there's a lot of BS on that has been imposed on us on what men can do or what men cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
That at the end of the day, you end up missing out on so many things. Like personally, You ask so many people in our generation, who's your dad? And a lot of them have no idea. Why? Because your dad never put you, your dad never read your bedtime story. Your dad never cuddled you. Your dad never took the time to know you. Sometimes you ask some fathers, hey, is that, it's like they even forget that's their son. And it's like looking at them, trying to remember what's the name of that son of mine. Like, that is how terrible it is that some of our fathers don't even remember our names. And so I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That part of the Kenyan culture, it doesn't work on getting the fathers involved in their kids.
Yeah.
Because you get to learn. Each kid is so different, and that's the crazy thing is you're wondering, wait, these kids came from the same parents, and you're like night and day. Because you get your first one, and then you think, oh, we kind of have this, established, and then you get the second one, and you're like, wait, where did you cut? Because they're like polar opposites of each other. And so, that part of the African fathers not being involved, I think it's one of the unfortunate things, because there's so much beauty in knowing your kids, just talking to them, because I've all these things, I try and look at other fathers who are doing it. You get people you can look up to, get some mentors and all that stuff. It's always good to do that. But also, I want my kids to know who I am.
Right.
I want my kids to know what I do. And because a lot of times you asked these questions, we asked them back in Africa, and you almost get a beating for asking your father what they do for a living.
Well,
so most kids don't even know what their fathers do for a living. How sad is that? And also this thing of, when they do that challenge and you're like, call your dad and tell your dad, I love you.
Oh my God, I saw that on one of the TikToks or whatever.
Yeah. And
they will never say it.
So that's the thing, though. That's one of the things I said to change out. I'm going to tell my kids, and I started them from very young. I always tell them I love them. Because, we sometimes, because I've seen kids ask, why don't you ever tell me you love me? And then, again, you almost get a beating. Because they're like, those clothes you're wearing, that chair you're sitting down asking me.
Shows you.
Yeah. Or do you want me to tell you? And then, I feed you, I clothe you, I house you, I do all these things. You're supposed to deduce from all that.
That you are loved.
If my dad does this and this and that, then they do love me.
Man, that's how we grew up.
Yeah, but I'm not going to directly tell you I love you. Hey, what? No, I wanted to change that. I did actually reached out to my dad. We reconnected. And I think I would also advise this to a lot of the people who, if you grew up with a single mom and you're able to reach out to your dad, please do. Aki, don't carry all that bitterness. It's only gonna make your life worse. I chose to forgive my dad, and I gave him a chance when and I got to know him before he died, and that was the best closure that I could ever have had. Is because you end up, it's the toxicity. It's taking poison, and you're hoping that it's gonna affect the other person, and the only person it affects is you. It's gonna affect you, your relationships with your family, your kids, and all that stuff. So I didn't want that baggage. So I forgave my dad, and I got to know him. And one of the things I intentionally did is I started to tell him, hey, I love you. And it was very hard for him in the beginning.
Yes, I'm sure.
they almost want to ask you, are you okay? Are you sick?
Are you
Are
dying?
you dying? Yeah? Yeah? Is there something wrong with you?
Yes.
Some of them, they even ignore when you tell them you love them.
They change the subject.
Yeah. Is it, what do you want?
What do you
So,
want?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad passed away, and I would, when I would call him, I'll be like, hey, man, daddy, yeah, I love you, dad. And then, it was awkward in the beginning, but then he just, all of a sudden, he started saying it, love you too. And then
Oh,
I did the same thing to my mom. And, and we always do that now with my mom. And
good.
that's so good. It's everybody wants to know they are loved.
Yeah.
And expecting your kids to know that you love them because you provide for them. You provide for them because that is your responsibility as a responsible parent, to provide for your kids. Yeah, because you brought them into this world. You're supposed to provide for them. That's not that. Yeah, I don't think that's
You're not
it's
doing them a
good.
favor.
Yeah, but you need to tell them that you love them.
Yeah.
Oh man, all this. Okay, yeah, you look at our generation. The reason why I think a lot of us are messed up, man, we were never loved the way we should have been loved as kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny that you're talking about this, and I know we're about to wind up, but the reason why I'm doing this series of parenting in America as an African is because of the sentiments that were expressed by my daughter who was born here. And the realization for me that came to light because of her being outspoken and bringing these issues to light was the fact that we are present, but we are not present. We are physically there, but we are not interacting with our kids. We don't know what the kids are going through. We are not there through the phases of their lives in school, growing up, all the kinds of stuff that they're going through in life. We are not there to support them because we are busy chasing the dollar and buying them these flashy things and this and that and the other, not remembering that that doesn't count. That doesn't count to them. So that's the reason why I decided to do this series, just to educate other people, because us as parents, we think we are doing the right thing because that's how we grew up. And so we are following into our parents' footsteps. But that's not true. It doesn't work for these kids. It doesn't. So we need to change the way we are raising our kids. If we are here in the US, the systems are different. The times are different. The generation is different. We're in a digital era. We didn't have that growing up. So why would we raise our kids the way we were raised? It doesn't make any sense. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your perspective on parenting. I feel like we should do a part 2 and 3 and 4 because
Yeah.
it's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to unpack. So,
It is. It is.
so to wind up, what can you tell, just a general message to the parents from the Kenyan American home? What can you tell the parents who are raising their kids here, especially those who are in a multicultural relationship? Because my husband was also American, so that became sort of an issue. So what can you tell
Yeah.
them?
Just to be present. I think we have so many things, but being present as a parent is very important. It's one of the things too I came to learn is your kids are not going to remember how hard you worked. All those nights that all those extra shifts you took to support them, they're not going to remember that. What they will remember is I had a game and my mom or my dad was not there.
Right.
They're going to remember this thing, like, where was my dad when it was the most important day of my life? And to a kid, you cannot dictate to a kid what's the most important day or thing in their life. All they're going to remember is you are not present.
Right.
And in our African minds, there's this lie that we tend to think that as long as we provide, they will understand. Now it's totally different. If you're not there, they're not going to remember. And it's sad that money, we need to look for money because, okay, bills, especially here in America. But you also need to prioritize your family.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you need to say no to that shift so that you can take your kids for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard truth. Maybe you need to sit down and work on your budget to remove all those extra things that you're spending money on. That way you don't have to get an extra shift.
Mm-hmm.
But spending time with your kids is paramount. Being there for them as they go through life, as just asking what's going on in their lives. I think one of the things that I started to do, me and my wife, is taking my boys out for like, hey, a one-on-one. Because I have 4 kids, and not all of them are gonna get their attention when they're together. And so I take them out, and I'm like, hey, how's life? How are you doing? Are you really happy?
That's
Are you happy? What can I do better as a parent? Can I do better as your father? I mean, those are some of the things that you're like, wow, wait, what? You mean, yeah, but it's like, I wish we had those avenues where our parents would sit us down and ask us how we're actually doing. But it's just being intentional, being present is way more important than you providing, because a lot of us are motivated by poverty. So, and you need to get rid of the poverty mentality. Yeah? God took you out of poverty. He's not going to take you back to poverty. So we try and work and get as much money as possible. And in doing that, we end up losing ourselves. We end up losing, because what's going to happen is you're not present for your kids because you think they remember you because of how good you provided. You're not there for them when they need you the most. A time will come when you'll need them. And what they'll do is they'll put you in a nursing home. It's the hard truth. If you're not there for them when they need you, they will not be there for you when you need them. It's hard, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
You need to be present for your kids. And then when you do, when they grow up, they might be present because they're like, you actually have a relationship. Have a relationship with your kids. It's like, what's going on in your kids' life? And a lot of us, the cultures we come from, the culture doesn't tell us to ask those questions, to be present in our kids' lives. And also, don't worry about being perfect. Don't be perfect, man. We make mistakes. That's how we learn. You learn, you move, you adjust. Also apologize to your kids because as parents, we're not right 100% of the time. Sometimes you are the problem. And if you are the problem, it's good as a father to show them, to take responsibility and say, hey, I messed up here and I'm sorry. I know your ego is but it's good to show your kids to take responsibility. Because if they see, hey, so daddy can mess up and come and say he's sorry, you're modeling a good way, for your kids to be responsible, to be like, hey, I messed up and I'm sorry. And it's perfectly fine. I don't think sometimes we think when we do that, our kids will think it's your
Weak.
kid. Your kid will never, your kid will never think you're weak. Your kid looks up to you and it's monkey see, monkey do. Whatever you model to them, a lot of the times, that's what they grow up knowing.
Yeah. Wow. That was a very, very insightful conversation. I enjoyed listening to your perspective, especially from a father's perspective, because most of the parents that I've interviewed so far, they're ladies. And it's so good to hear from a male perspective, from a father, a Kenyan father for that matter, to see how is it going? What's the difference between being raised back home and raising our kids here? I hope we can get time to continue this conversation because there's a lot to talk about: the school system, homeschooling, and stuff like that, and different stages of our kids and how are we there for them, raising stuff like that. What are our kids experiencing? How do they identify? Are they Kenyans? Are they Americans? What are they? They're confused. Like how
Yeah.
are we supporting them in that way? So
Yeah.
I
And
really,
culture shocks too. Yeah.
yeah, I really
Culture
appreciate
shock. Yeah.
culture shock for them, because we think we had culture shock. They have a culture shock because mom is saying this, dad is saying this. Like, who do we follow? You know what I mean? And then they go to school, they're like, are we Kenyan? Are we black? What are we? So it's a huge conversation that needs to be had, especially for us Africans here, because nobody's talking about these things. We're just going about life, raising these kids without knowing what are the kids saying? What are the kids experiencing? What is the kids' feedback to us so that we can do better? Because when you know better, you do better. If you don't know, you just continue with your ways. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming through. Where can people find you?
I mean, yeah, you can find me on the Kenyan American Home. I'm in all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, but also, see that name, the way it's written there, please make sure when you find, there's always, I think once you start to do content, you get all these fake accounts and stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure, yeah. I think I tell people, if you want to find my real accounts, go to YouTube. YouTube, the Kenyan American Home. On any video, if you click on the description, I always put my social media handles there, and you can, whether you can find me from there. But yeah, let's keep talking. Thank you, Lucy, for inviting me, and also creating this platform that where we can talk and really, I think it's saving our kids from some of the hells that we went through. We people end up making an excuse of we turned out better, but did we?
Did we
Did we
really?
really turn out better, or are
Yeah.
we? Or yeah, then it's like is it part of the reason why we, you think about Kenyans and they are this way, the toxicity, the everything. Yeah, did we turn out better because we were beaten, sometimes close to death?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Questions to ponder on, questions to ask ourselves. This has been an eye-opening conversation. Thank you, the Kenyan American Home, for sharing your journey with us, for accepting the invitation. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and comment. Follow him on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Make sure you share your stories on life in America as an African. You can email us, lucymwangiusa@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Thank you. I have a series called Diaspora Diaries coming up, the Immigrant Chronicles. And if you want to talk about your experience here in America, you can email me as well, and we can start talking about our life in America as Africans. Thank you so much for joining us. See you in the next video.
Shukran.
Thank you.